Hey people, this is a mentally dope. That is us. This is me and Jasmine. I'm Charmaine. This is Jasmine. We are trying something semi-new to see if we can start going live with some of our videos. We would love for you guys to be able to tune in while we're going live and talk to us so we can talk back in real life. So if you did click on it, I mean, maybe because you're just on YouTube, but I mean, if you see the title, we're talking about self-sabotage today, which is a big topic. And we want to jump all the way into it. Like, how do we define it? What does it look like? How most of us do it? I mean, I don't know. Speaking for myself, I know that I self-sabotage. How do we do it? What does it look like? What does it look like in different communities? And how do we potentially overcome self-sabotage?
Overcome right there. Over that mountain. So if you're new here, we're two licensed therapists. Okay, we talk about everything at the intersection of mental health and Black culture. And before we even get into the definition, is there anybody for you that represents self-sabotage, like real or fictional, that you're just like, this person embodies what I think of when I think of self-sabotage?
Myself. No, I mean, like, but I mean, for real. When I first started,
a relatable person, people might know.
I
can tell you mine.
Okay,
mine is Joan Clayton.
Oh,
I feel like she, in my mind, when I think about self-sabotage, I think about Joan
Clayton. Yeah, I can definitely see that with relationships and in friends. I was actually thinking about Issa Rae.
That's a good one.
When and Insecure, that was definitely my thought when you mentioned that, of someone who self-sabotages. I think that for both of them, with Issa, it was definitely her anxiousness that would cause her to self-sabotage in different situations. Yep. And then with Joan, it was like the fear of not finding a man, because that was like season 1 through forever, about her not finding a man, or then getting a man and then losing the man. So then I'm going to do something to self-sabotage and then prove to myself that this is not.
Yeah, absolutely. So there have been a lot of characters over the years, but I feel like those are two, and anxiety is a good way to say somebody who's self-sabotaging. They often have anxiety or they struggle with anxiety. But I think my definition for self-sabotage is like anything that you're working towards or going towards, the things that you are doing or not doing to get there. Right? Yes. Like the barriers that hold you back from doing the thing you really want to do or being the person you really want to be. That is self-sabotage.
Yeah. So like, to me, it's like literally like, my goal and my behavior do not always align. And so that's literally what self-sabotage is. I'm saying that I want this, I'm saying that I want this to happen, and then like what I'm doing is not aligning with that.
And it's usually internal, right? It's like based on how you feel about yourself, what you believe about yourself, all that jazz. And so for a lot of people, the inside is coming out, and they can't always see it. It's not always visible.
I think that it's not. So yes, I think that sometimes it is very, very unconscious. That it seems like that is a big thing about self-sabotage, that we say that it's like something that we're doing consciously, and sometimes it's absolutely not even conscious.
Yeah, and I would say most times it's not conscious.
Yeah. So like when you think about it, you could like bring it to the forefront. Like, okay, so for example, for me, I would say for myself, I self-sabotage sometimes when it comes to like things for work or things for training or things for my career. I will get an email about like a training that I should do or something that I should, like a conference I should go to, and I'll look at it and be like, I'm gonna leave that unread, I'm gonna come back to it, and I know that I probably won't, and then I'll come back. Or sometimes I'll like purposely like look over stuff sometimes, and then I'll come back and be like, well, the deadline passed. Oops. Yeah. And then like sometimes I'll even like go good, I'm mad about it. Like, I really wanted to do that. But it happened last week.
Yeah. But with that, I feel like when I do that with career stuff and work stuff, it's something that makes me anxious. Usually. Yes. So it might be like, I have to do something new. I have to put myself out there. I have to talk in front of a bunch of people, and it'd be like, I'm gonna just wait until I feel like doing it. But that's not really the truth. That's just the thing that I'm telling myself.
Yes.
so that I can like manage the anxious feelings about it.
Yes.
And then it doesn't get done and be like, well, I wasn't gonna be good at it anyway. I really
Yes.
wasn't gonna it wasn't gonna be as
We
great as I
rationalize
thought.
it.
And like it's all of this. But that's also a way how you can tell like something is self-sabotaging behavior.
Yes.
In that you justify how you showed up for it. And that is not in alignment with the thing, right?
I think the hard thing too is that you justify it in the moment. So like I will like tell myself in the moment, I am not doing this right now because of this. Or like, I need more time to think about this. And it's like you're trying to convince yourself that the behavior that you're doing is okay when you're really just self-sabotaging yourself to not get this thing to happen.
Well, it's not even that the behavior is not okay. It's also like you have this goal. And so whatever steps you're making need to be towards that goal. You got an opportunity to reach your goal. And instead of going for that opportunity, you didn't. And so it's like, it's not consistent with what you said you wanted.
Yeah. And I think that like, kind of like what you said with the Joan, the Joan example of being able to see how sometimes it continues to happen even when you have the thing. So like in those examples of like, not only do I want the man in this situation, but even when I get him, I'm going to continue to self-sabotage because even though I really, really want the relationship or I really, really want the marriage, the idea of having it scares me. So I'm going to do stuff to like prove that it's not what it should be. And then when it is, it's like.
But then that comes to like one of the big things with self-sabotage is the things that you're saying to yourself, your inner voice, the way. If some people like narrative therapy, the way that you're telling the story about the thing, right? Yeah. So for some people, when I talk with clients, something good happens to them, and I said, okay, where are we putting that in the filing cabinet? Which drawer are we putting that in? Are we putting that in the filing cabinet of this is a fluke, it's a good thing, like it just happened, or you earned it, you worked for it, and you deserve it, right? And depending on where you file that in the filing cabinet is what's going to determine your behavior next.
100%.
Right? Like, are you going to hold the thing and steward it and do it on purpose? Or are you going to be like, well, it was a fluke anyway. It's never going to happen again. Like, I don't even deserve it. I'm not worthy of this, so I'm not going to put any more energy towards it. I feel like Joan, my girl, she embodied that very much of just like it's not really going to work out all the time, or it's just not really going to do that. So I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And then it's just not going to work out. It's just not going to work out. Versus being like, I want this, I deserve this, and I want to cultivate it.
Yeah. And I think that another thing too, of like going off what you had said about how you think about things, but also how you feel about yourself, and then looking at fact or fiction. So like, is it a fact that you're not good enough? Is it a fact that you wouldn't have been able to do it? Is it a fact that you would have went out there and messed up? Is it a fact that the person would have been terrible in a relationship? Are those facts, or are those like things that you have been told? Also I'm breaking that down of like where this voice is coming from, and is it a reality, or like or where that is. And then those moments we do self-sabotage of like, well, I knew it was going to be bad anyways, or like I wasn't going to get the job anyways.
Yeah, but nobody thought that but you. You were a serious candidate for those people, but you didn't show up.
Or you didn't even try.
Right.
Or you didn't even apply.
You didn't even put your best foot forward because you thought you already knew how it was going to end. And then that part of your brain that talks you out of the stuff, it only is able to get louder and say, see, you didn't even do it. But you didn't even try.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say that part. It just says, we already knew you couldn't. Look at that. You still don't have it.
Which is the hard part about self-sabotage, is that it's normally also connected to the shame aspect. So then after I don't do it, or after I sabotage myself, then I shame myself with the way that I sabotage. Because like there's also that part of your brain that's like, see, I told you, you messed up. This is your fault.
Well, this is the thing that I'm trying to predict, which is you're going to fail. I want to protect you from failure, so let's just not do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't do it, and then it's like, see, we're good. We're good. Right? It's that part of you that's like, we good. You don't even have to go through all that. You don't even have to try something new. You don't even have to face that potential rejection that may or may not even happen.
That potential embarrassment. I'm going to go out there and sound stupid, or people are going to make fun of me, or whatever it is. But then it's also, like I said, there's also the other aspect of that the shame is like, you didn't try.
But it's the same. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy of just like, look, you wouldn't even put in effort to do that. Why should we try and do other things? But baby, you convinced me not to do it, right? Like I'm having this war in between myself. And I feel like that's relatable for people too, to like wrestle with that and not know where to put it. Like to be flip floppy on which one is. I feel like I deserve this. I feel like I really want this, but also do I really? I don't know.
So I think that one of the other ways also too is looking at how self-sabotage can manifest itself in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like so it, like we said too, it could show up in procrastination. Because we're procrastinating so much and trying to blame it on those things, and that's the way that it's manifesting that way.
Yeah, I see that a lot with students. Who are like, I really want good grades. I really want this semester to look different, and then they get in there and they don't. They're like, yeah, but I'm not doing my homework, and I really didn't show up for class. But it's not because they don't want those things. It's because they're anxious about it. And
they freak themselves out.
Yes, and they just don't touch it. They're like, this makes me too anxious. I'm just not going to do it.
Yep. We see that sometimes too with like perfectionism.
Recovering perfectionist here. That's the story.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. Which feels counterintuitive because, like, if you're a perfectionist, then wouldn't you do everything right? And then just
but if I don't think that I can do it 100% right, then I'm not going to do it.
Just read me, okay? But that, look, fellow perfectionist, I know I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
That, like, if I know I can't do it perfectly or exactly right the first time, then why would we try?
I get that.
Why would we even try?
For me, sometimes, and I've seen this too, either it's setting goals too low or setting goals too high. So setting the goal like way too high because you know that you're not gonna meet it on purpose, and then you can prove to yourself. I see that a lot of times with clients or supervisees and things like that. You talk about where they're like set a goal for themselves, and I'm like, is that like a realistic goal that you're gonna set for yourself? That I should be able to do all of this and all of this and all of this, and I'm like, in a day?
Yeah,
like that's what we're doing in the same 24 hours. Like that's what's happening here.
It's not realistic.
Yes, but it's also self-sabotage because we know that we're not going to meet it. Yeah. Or you set the goals way too low, and I say something like, oh well, I'll like go pick up this piece of paper. That for the day, like it's like you set a really low goal.
Yeah, but it's all based on the belief that like it's not going to get done anyway. It's not gonna, if it does get done, it's not going to get done well.
Yeah,
like all of that whole thing is stacked up against you, and then it comes out. It spills out into your choices.
I think that kind of like what you were saying too, that self-sabotage can also turn into projection, because it also like can create this
projection.
When you project your beliefs off on someone else. So self-sabotaging can also say that you're creating a set of beliefs for yourself. And then if I project that off on somebody else. So let's just say that I have set goals too low of saying, okay, I'm going to see 2 clients a week. And then my therapist friend over here says, well, I'm going to see 10. Something's wrong with you. Why would you even do that to yourself? I want to project.
But you say it to me.
Yes.
Like, there's no way. Like, I can't believe that. Now I'm like,
I want to project off on you that you shouldn't be doing the thing that I'm scared to do myself.
Right. And then it's like, oh my gosh, Charmaine's so judgmental. It's such a problem. But it's really like, Charmaine is very hard on herself.
Or you could also like embody that and be like, wait, is she right? Am I doing too much? Because now I've told you my self-sabotaging things, and I want you to feel the same thing, so I want you to see me. Don't do what I'm scared to do.
But it gets complicated because you also have those friends you lean on for advice, and they may not necessarily not have your best interest in heart, but they also deal with self-sabotaging stuff too. And so they can't necessarily give you an objective view.
Which is really hard when you have a friend, which is understandable, but when you have a friend who can't see past themselves to be able to see you. Yeah. Which happens a lot. I don't know about anybody else, but I've been in those situations before where you try to do something or achieve something where the people in your life have either not did or that they're scared of, and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Oh, that's terrible. That's not going to work.
Or you really should count your blessings and not strive for anything bigger because you're really lucky to have what you have.
Yeah.
I feel like y'all just let me know if somebody said that to you before, but like they can't see anything above where you're at, and they even think like you barely deserve what you have. Those are probably not the people to encourage you out of your self-sabotage, right? You need someone who has a greater vision.
Yeah, which is hard. And I tell Jasmine that sometimes because I feel like that even though Jasmine gets scared of doing things, Jasmine will push me and tell me that I can do anything, people. And sometimes it's like, you can do anything. Come on, smoke the bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. But like it'll be those moments where I tell Jasmine something, she was like, "You can do more than that." And I'm like, okay.
I'm not the friend to go to somebody to talk you out of something.
But that is the hard part of like how this looks in relationships. I've definitely been in situations before where I'm like, "Hey, I want to do a podcast," and people are like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's really saturated right now.
Yeah,
I don't think you're gonna.
That may not be for you. I'm not sure that like being on camera is your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it is interesting. so we're saying like how this can look in our relationships, like what this looks like for us in relationships, how we can show up with us and with other people.
Can I say overfunctioning is also a big thing? And so when I mean overfunctioning, I mean when you're in relationships, and it's really like those of us that struggle with codependence, overfunctioning is the thing that pops up of like, you're going to do this. Okay, well, let me do it for you. Or like, let me go ahead and do something out of the way or be responsible for things that are not my responsibility. And I feel like that is a very Joan Clayton thing. Like I said,
you're gonna stay on Joan today. That was not even the topic today, y'all. But it was okay. We're gonna stay on Joan.
I feel some type of way about Joan, but I feel like there's different ways to overfunction.
Yeah.
Like I always say, when you water a plant, you can underwater a plant and you can overwater a plant. Joan was the overwaterer. She put everything she had.
But like we said, that is an overwater out of fear. We see this with people. I'm sure that y'all have some in your lives. I know I do, with people in our lives who are just like, I'm going to do everything. Let me handle that. Let me do this. Let me do that. And it's out of the fear of like, either you're not going to need me, or like, I need to feel the value. Absolutely. I need to do all these things.
It's fear-based.
And then I'm also, which is also like self-sabotaging, because if any of these things go wrong, like the relationship is like, I'm scared. I'm so scared of losing you. I'm going to do 100%. Like, I'm going to do more than what I should be doing to keep you.
But that's the motivation. Yes. And I'm not necessarily talking about the motivation though, but that is the underlying thing. But the thing is, if you put your whole identity and worth and value into this thing, like sometimes Joan did in her relationships, and we can do in our own thing, we can do it in work, we can do it in a whole bunch of, in our kids, all of these things, that is self-sabotaging, because you can't see yourself out of that. So if that thing fails, or if that thing goes through hard times, when it crashes, you're going to also crash.
Yeah, 100%.
Versus you having like a diverse basket of different things, and you get your worth from the internal stuff. When something fails, it just fails. It's not a reflection of you, right? Yeah. You can't like not function, and you have to like rebuild your life. It's just a part of your life.
Yeah.
And so you can underwater and you can dry it out, but you can overwater and drown that thing.
Also has self-sabotaging good liquor.
What about in like romantic relationships?
I think it's the same thing. They're kind of like the same thing of like, for one, I was reading about this morning about like not trusting your partner because of like, which could also happen because of like past hurts or things of that nature. I don't trust you, or I'm scared that you're going to do something to hurt me. So I'm going to continue to like look for ways to sabotage this. I'm going to look for ways to blame you for stuff. I'm going to look for ways to show up in this different ways. I'm going to keep looking for the aha moments until I push you away enough to prove to myself that this was not what I was already scared for it not to be.
And that could be like blaming people, being like jealous or paranoid that people are doing stuff. That also could be never actually, and this is what I think is underwatering, never actually being fully present in the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, those people who like get in a relationship and then they gonna keep the apps though. And they're gonna keep scrolling the apps just to make sure they have a backup just in case it doesn't work.
That part too.
About they always keep somebody. They be like, you always know somebody.
Yes. Or like the whole like, I don't want to share this or broadcast this because I'm scared.
That
because I'm scared for that to happen.
I'm so serious. People like don't like. People are very superstitious of like, if I put it on Facebook, if I put it on Instagram, then he will start acting crazy. It's not gonna work out. Versus,
or like, everybody's gonna know and it's gonna be a thing. Yeah. But there's a vulnerability in that, and the vulnerability takes the risk of those, and we're not quite sure about like taking that fully risk.
Yeah.
Or like you said too about like not fully being there. It's also not fully being there vulnerably. Like you have to have people that you have like you've seen who have like dated for a long time and they do not know that person. Like, what you mean your middle name is such and such? Or like, what you mean that like, you know, your family like, you know, something that like how do I not know these things about you?
Mhm.
Because I never told you.
They keep it superficial.
Yeah, because there's no vulnerability in that. There's
Because
not a lot of
no
risk. So,
right? But then that's also that person hedging. Like the thing is not going to work out anyway.
mhm.
So if that's the case, I can't put everything I have into it.
Yeah. I also see the opposite too of, like you said, like the overwatering. People on the first date who just like
It's
pull out,
gotta work.
yeah,
out.
or pull out the whole PowerPoint. This is my entire life.
Mhm.
This is all my trauma, and take it. And
Yeah.
if they don't,
If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
yeah, on the first date,
Right. And I'm not saying that thought is not true. Yes, you need somebody with you thick and thin, but you self-sabotage because you went in there swinging, knowing that was going to push them away.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to be the one rejected. You wanted to do the rejecting.
yes, or you pinpointed something
Ooh.
that had nothing. Y'all are having this your first date, and this man's eating steak, and you're like, so I can't be with no man who just
Mhm.
who was like, eat. What?
And let me talk to the younger generation, because what they call it is the ick, right? But what if it's you get the ick with everything, like every little
Because
thing
you're self-sabotaging and because you don't want to.
If that is happening with you though, yeah, I feel like you need to go and reflect and be like, is this a deal breaker?
Or am I just scared?
Ooh. Right? Is this a deal breaker, or am I just not confident in myself? So I just not feel like maybe I'm deserving of a relationship or love or like all that stuff. So, there's lots of things you could do.
Do we also see how sometimes too it shows up in like marginalized communities?
Mm.
We see this as well, like culturally, like how this shows up in Black people. Like we said, the intersection of Black and mental health, like how this shows up for us in those ways. Like when we deal with, I mean, racial trauma is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with that, dealing with the microaggressions, dealing with the fears that are there, which is actually present. That stuff that actually is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It could be happening, but like the push pull of that as well.
Yeah, and
then like I'm not gonna say that we don't, like see what I'm saying sometimes of like, well, that didn't happen because I was Black. Like, wait, did we try? Like, no. Like, okay.
We'll take that. But you know how we do. Everything goes back to slavery.
Yes.
And so, right, like people had to frame us in a certain way so that they could oppress us and blah, blah, blah. We know all that stuff. But so I'm saying that to say it's not necessarily Black and brown people and marginalized people's fault that they get this, right? Like
100%.
When we talk about imposter syndrome, I don't like the way that we talk about imposter syndrome because it makes it feel like, well, you have this problem. But it's actually not my problem. It's that you guys don't let me belong in this space. Right? Like you push against me. You don't like the way that my hair looks. You don't like the way that I talk. Like all of these things. And therefore I feel like I don't belong. And then I might self-sabotage. So we're not saying like this is your fault if you struggle in this area. But what we are saying is you are responsible for like breaking through that and doing the internal work so that you're not holding internalized racism or internalized misogyny or internalized homophobia and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that is still your work, even if it was given to you. You didn't earn it.
Yeah. I love that. Jasmine said something before in one of our other videos. I'm not sure which one it was, but I loved it. Is that even though we did not create the narrative, it's up to us to change the narrative. So,
yeah,
doing
for
that.
your life,
yeah. So, how do we start overcoming self-sabotage?
I feel like now I need to sing like
a
Negro spiritual or something. There's work. When I do self-sabotage with clients, like it takes time. It is not a quick thing.
Yeah, because I mean, for one, we have to bring what is sometimes unconscious to the conscious, and that in itself is work. Because, like I said, we do these things sometimes unawarely. So, like, did I get a word?
Not yet, you did. But okay. It's okay. I was gonna say unawarely. I make
up words from time to time. If you guys know us, then you know. But it's fine. You know what I meant. So yeah, sometimes when you're unaware. So having to bring what's unconscious to the conscious, so like bring it to the forefront, actually being aware. You cannot change what you're hiding,
and you cannot change what you just don't know. I will say it can be a form of self-sabotage, not to, and maybe I'm just talking about myself, so we'll just do that, but to not for something to happen and you intentionally busy yourself and not process it.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't really want to chew on this right now. Let's just go do this. Let's just do that. Okay, see, we're feeling it. It happens. But I would also say something that is really helpful is, I know friends are hard to find, but get you some friends and allow yourself to let them tell you the truth about yourself.
But also be able to have a level of not being defensive, but being able to figure out who you're listening to and why you're not listening to them. Because, like we said before, like you can have some friends who project off on you. So I've definitely had friends I've come to ask about, like, accountability from myself, and they start projecting all kind of other stuff. I'm like, that's not mine.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you can't discern that, you will take it on as yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then so being aware of who you're asking and who you're getting accountability from.
And then if they are a person that you can get accountability from, listen to them. Actually take it and allow them to do that. Because some people will be like, tell me the truth, and then you tell them the truth, they'll be like they going
what
off.
What you're not gonna do is tell me this, and how about you and what you be doing it.
But you just told me to tell you the truth, and I love you, so I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Nope. No, we have to be able to let people tell us the truth and hold that. And honestly, that person's perspective, like you said, you can take that and take what you need from it and leave the rest.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You don't have to take everything for 100% as a word of God and everything else. Just take what you need, receive it. What part of this is true for me?
Yep. Take
what part of this is hurt my feelings? What part of this is hard? And then do what you need to do with it.
I love that little remember the time thing that you had going on. Okay. Get to know yourself is a big one, which is really hard. Doing a lot of hard work in that.
How does one get to know themselves?
To me, it's work. It's actually, so I always try to figure out too, like, this is my box of who did the Lord create me to be and who did the world create me to be. And sometimes the person who the Lord created me to be is not the same person. So now I don't know.
Most times,
I don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm into. I don't know how to act in situations. Am I too loud? Like, I don't know, like, where all this stuff is, because I've been so changed into trying to morph into what other people have made me into. So actually just being able to discover, like, sitting with oneself a lot and, like, figuring out, like, what that is and what that looks like or can look like.
And so that could, listen, I know y'all tired of it. Therapists going to talk about a journal. They're going to talk about a journal. We want you to journal, because that also helps things get from emotional and really, like, hot to, like, cooled and simmer down, and helps you get perspective of, right, like, this thing happened and I was pissed off about it. And then you take time and be like, oh, but she was just trying to do X, Y. Like, she was just trying to help me out.
And what did this trigger in me?
Right.
Why did I get upset? Like, why did I feel this way? Why did I feel sad? Like, all those things.
And it's usually stuff that maybe you can't even say out loud to people. Maybe you can't even tell your friend because you're not comfortable. It's too vulnerable. But it helps you get a view of that, right? It's not just about the emotions, but it's also the why about the emotions. Why did this bother me?
Yeah. So that's
why was it so upset?
Uncovering the underlying feelings.
Why does it scare me? Why am I scared of this thing that I actually do want? Right. And, like, digging through that and realizing how that connects to your childhood, your trauma, your experiences, your baggage.
Yep. Also, setting realistic goals, kind of like we said earlier, not setting goals that are too high or too low, actually setting goals that are realistic and being able to work with that. So you know what a realistic goal is for yourself, not for anybody else. That's what I said too. Like, not comparing yourself to anybody else. Like, if Keisha online doing 100 things, that's not your goal or your baseline, but you know yours. So setting one for you.
And that's a next point. Go to therapy about it. But that is the thing that you can do in therapy. Some people they generally don't know their limits. They're just like, I'll just do it. Why did I do that? Like, I can do that. And then sitting with someone who's objective and be like, but can you? And also, this isn't humanly possible for anyone.
Yeah, or should you?
Yes.
And if you set your goals too low because you don't think that your work is to be able to do more. So being able to do that as well too. So being able to sit with that. And then the biggest to me for all of these things that we're talking about is the self-compassion. having self-compassion for yourself, because you just didn't get here just because one morning you woke up and said, I want to self-sabotage. No, there was
That's not how it
some,
works.
yeah, there was some steps that got here. There was a lot of stuff that happened, and so you have to have some self-compassion for yourself in this process, in this journey, when you continue to go back and forth, like.
Yeah. And what that actually looks like is taking the time. Like, if you mess up, if you don't do something perfectly, if you mess something up, like all of that, you take the time to be like, okay, it's not the end of the world. I'm not a bad person for not being able to do a thing perfectly. I'm not even a bad person for continuing to self-sabotage, even though I'm trying not to. It's none of that, right? Like, you are human. You get to be human, and allowing yourself to be human is the thing that actually moves you forward. I think the anxiety, the internal talk thinks that criticism is the thing that's going to get us there. Like, I'm going to keep criticizing, and that's going to.
You do not believe yourself into change.
No, you can't. I'm just say that again so that people can understand.
You cannot believe yourself into change. I need this indeed. I need it.
You can't. It's not how it works, right? We grow and we bloom and we blossom from like nourishment. And nurturing.
Compassionate love.
Yes, all of that good stuff. And so the issue, the reason why you're probably self-sabotaging, the reason why we do is because we're lacking that compassion for ourselves. Right? And so in order to do that, we got to do the opposite, which is probably going to feel weird. It's going to feel new. It's going to feel like a thing you've not done before. Right? Because you're used to the criticism. But like, we gotta move forward and be gentle. If you've been trying and you can't do it, it's because there's something wrong. Not because there's something wrong with you, but is there something you don't know yet?
Yeah, and
there's some gap that you haven't filled yet. That's all. That's it. It can be just that. You don't have to be like an awful, bad, lazy, terrible person.
Agreed. Like that.
And I got another one. I would say draw boundaries around people who reinforce the self-sabotage in you.
Oh, yes.
Because notice I didn't say cut them off cold turkey, because what if it's your family? What if it's your mom? What if it's your friend? Like,
and like we said, sometimes you have friends who may be projecting things off on you and they don't even realize it. So it's not even like that they're like bad people. There's identification of like, I can't go to her or him or
I can't talk to so-and-so about this.
About this, because I know that they're gonna have this perspective and it's not what I need.
They're not gonna get it.
Yes.
Right? Like, I can go all day. But essentially, draw boundaries around it. Limit the time you talk about a thing, limit the time maybe you're with them, limit the time that you receive feedback from them on certain things. Like, that's all. You can do that and not cut somebody off.
100%. Right.
So this is always a little sticky. It's always a little complicated. I feel like.
It's a lot. But we love talking about self-sabotage. Hopefully you guys have more questions about it, things that we can continue to discuss. Was there a book that you read there?
There is. If you haven't read the book, it's a good thing to like roll over. I think she also has a workbook, but The Mountain is You. The Mountain is You. A Mountain is You. The Mountain is You, I think is what the book's called. But and I'll put it in like the links in there. But I think it's Brianna Pastor. But it's a really good. It talks about how to overcome self-sabotage and overcome these things that get in the way of the things that you want. So it's a really good place to start if you're like really new with this journey. Again, you can always therapy about it. It's a great way to do it, because all of these are blind spots for people. Like, you can't see it because that's the way that we work. And so we need some extra eyes. And what do you want people to comment and say?
How do they recognize self-sabotaging in themselves? And is there a movie character or show character that you're like, they definitely self-sabotaged? Like, if you don't want to talk about yourself, talk about somebody else, then like put it in the comments for us to be like, yep, they did. So yeah,
that's it, y'all. So as usual, we need you to stay next week. Please
like, subscribe, let us know if you like this way for us to show up.
So take care of yourself.
Right. Bye.